Haribol, Haribol, Nitai Gora Haribol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gora Premanande. Reading from Prabhupada, he built a house in which the whole world can live. So this chapter is entitled, Only He Could Lead Them. There were many other interesting characters. The old widow Sarajini, with bald head and shika, and calloused bare feet, who slept who slept in a room by the gate of the temple and swept Swamiji's kitchen and washed his clothes. Panchudas Goswami, the temple proprietor's son, who always chewed pant and went around sleepy-eyed in a silk dhoti with a red embroidered border. The dark old Babaji, who came at night, who was constantly laughing, and who made sandalwood paste for Swamiji, the local herbal doctor. Vanamali Kaviraj, who presided, brightly smiling, from behind a desk in a tiny chamber filled from ceiling to floor with little bottles, and a famous pandit who visited Swamiji and wore a gold-linked tulasi necklace and diamond rings. All of these persons were devotees, residents of the holy Vrindavan, but no one was like Swamiji. Kirtanananda Swami even became disappointed that no one else in Vrindavan was like Swamiji. In the land where everyone was an Indian and everyone was a devotee, Swamiji was still unique. No one else was so simple, so grave, and so able to penetrate through falsity, so attractive to the heart, and so absolutely attached to Krishna. No one else could lead them. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Could we have some water, please? Reading from Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 7, text number 14. Tesham Kupata. Thank you. Deshtrinam. Tesham kupata deshtrinam. Patatam tamasi. Thank you. He adha. Patatam tamasi yadaha. Ye Shraddhadyur Vachaste Vai Ye Shraddhadyur Vachaste Vai Majanti Ashma Plava Iva Majanti Ashma Plava Iva Tesham Kupata Deshtrinam Patatam Tamasi Yadaha Yeshradhadyur Vachaste Vai Shma Plavaiva Tesham Kupata Deshtrinam Patatam Tamasi Yadaha Yeshradhadyur Vachaste Vai Majanti Ashma Plavaiva Tesham Kupata Deshtrinam Patatam Tamasi Yadaha Yeshradhadyur Vachaste Vai Majanti Ashma Plavaiva
Tesham kupata teshtrinam
Tesham Kupata Deshtrinam
padatam tamasi hyadaha
Patatam Tamasi Yadaha
yeshrada yorvachaste vai
Yeshradhadyur Vachaste Vai
majantyasma pala iva.
Majanti Ashma Plavaiva Tesham Kupata Deshtrinam Patatam Tamasi Yadaha Yeshradhadyur Vachaste Vai Majanti Ashma Plavaiva
Tesham kupatha destrinam
Tesham Kupata Deshtrinam
patatang tamasi yadaha
Patatam Tamasi Yadaha
yeshadhatyor vachaste vai
Yeshradhadyur Vachaste Vai
majantyashma plavaiva
Majanti Ashma Plavaiva Tesham Kupata Deshtrinam Patatam Tamasi Yadaha Yeshradhadyur Vachaste Vai Madhyanti Ashma Plavaiva Tesham of them, the misleaders, Kupata Deshtrinam, who show the path of danger, Patatam, themselves falling, Tamasi, in darkness, He, indeed, Adaha, down, Ye, anyone who, Shraddhadyuhu, place faith in, Vachaha, the words, Te, they, Vai, indeed, Majanti, sink, Ashmaplavaha, boats made of stone, Iva, Gokrishna Gopikakanta Radhakanta Namostute Tata Kanchana Gauranga Radhe Nandameshwari Vishnu Bhanusude Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripasamudabhayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vastavi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukha Karati Vachana Panguna Gaite Gita Ekripatam Shiva Mundinatana Hare Krishna 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 Bhakti Swami Nityananda Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Ram So the translation again. Leaders who have fallen into ignorance and who mislead people by directing them to the path of destruction, as described in the previous verse, are in effect bored in a stone boat, and so too are those who blindly follow them. A stone boat would be unable to float and would sink in the water with its passengers. Similarly, those who mislead people go to hell, and their followers go with them. So, in order to get to the destination, you have to board a right boat wherever you want to go. You want to go to Scotland, you want to go to London, you want to go to Aberdeen. You have to go to the boat that will take you there. Of course, people not so much travel in boats nowadays. You travel in cars, you travel in buses, you travel in trains and planes. Both, of course, there are still cruise ships that people are using. But if you enter the boat that's taking you somewhere else, has anybody had an experience of taking a wrong bus? It's a bit more difficult to take a wrong plane, but you can take a wrong bus. Or I remember this one day I was still a very young devotee, and I went to this small town to do some book distribution. And then I was supposed to catch a bus into the town, and the devotees will take me back. So I was very tired, as you can get, after attending a number of morning programs, and maybe not getting as much sleep. So I was very tired, so I entered this bus. The bus was right, but when I woke up, sometime later, I was in the wrong town. I kind of passed a few stops, and I was somewhere else. So I had to catch a bus back. So like that, and also a part of, you may be driving, but you need a sat-nav. Because in the past, people used to find their place where to go according to the map. You could read a map, and then you turn left. Or often you would ask a person on the way which way I need to go, where is the street, etc. So nowadays it's a bit easier with sat-nav. But I think it was Pip's mom the other day when she did the first time food deliveries. She put in a wrong, how do you call it, postcode. So she ended up like somewhere else, and it does happen to our drivers time after time. They just end up in some other place because they set the destination wrong. So kind of leadership, this means how to set a right destination. And what is that right destination? course, we understand now that it is true love of God. It is a lotus feet of Krishna, and that will give us ultimate happiness. But if the postcode is not right, if the leaders, and if you look around us, it's always promotion of some destination, whether it's a newspaper, whether it's a certain dress code, whether it's a certain standard of happiness, whether materially in terms of status and etc. It's always some destination is being presented to us. You can be happy by doing this, happy by doing this. But if this is not, so it's like a boat. It's an opportunity for you to enter this boat, and it will take you to that specific destination. And there will be various types of favorable events that are happen in the form of like a promotion, like various types of advertisements and etc. So like a favorable events. You'll be happy. Just enter this boat, and it will take you to the desired destination of happiness. But however, time after time, we ourselves experience to be in not the right boat. The boat is sinking. Before coming to Krishna consciousness, we do become attracted to those various destinations and promises, and we enter various types of boats in the hope that this will take us to our destination. But time and time again, we find that this boat is not taking me to the destination that I really want. So it is very great fortune if you decide then to enter a boat that's a spiritual boat. We can start seeing that those stone boats is actually sinking, and I may be sinking together with those boats. It's a personal experience. We try to explore it. It looks very attractive. Various types of destinations, various standards of happiness. But then, for some reason, you feel that this is actually making me sink. You get the feeling of sinking is not really fulfilling its promise. You're not reaching the destination. The destination remains very distant, like in an oasis. Because you don't get so much when you're on the boat with an oasis, or like not an oasis in a desert. There's this nice picture that you see.
Mirage.
Sorry?
Mirage.
Mirage. The mirage, you're coming to it, not maybe on a boat, but let's say your boat may be a camel. You're on a camel trying to catch a mirage, but it remains distant, very, very far, distant away. No matter how much you travel, it seems to be as distant. Or, if you're traveling on the ass, and the ass has got like a carrot in front of it, so he's trying to catch that carrot, but the distance between the ass and the carrot remains the same. So the leader is sitting there, behind, giving that carrot for the ass. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly, because I think if you mispronounce it, it can mean something else. So it's just like he's giving that carrot, but it remains the distance away. No matter how close you want to cut it, it still remains far away. So yeah, these are the different types of is considered like a cheating or misleading. And often, it sounds very simple, but actually it really cracks the essence. Prabhupada said, in how many words? 4 words. In 4 words, he summarizes this whole phenomenon that we see in the material world. This is like, expertise of a sadhu, that in a few words, you can just like summarize something and almost like give a true understanding, or dismiss a wrong understanding. So Prabhupada called this phenomenon blind leads the blind. This purport as well can be put in these few words. Blind leads the blind. And of course, you may be wondering what's the problem with the understanding of the leaders that is leading people. But the people are innocent, somehow or other they are looking for something, and they find this in whatever shape or form that leadership is taking them to whichever destination that sounds attractive. But the fact, so on one hand, is responsibility of both sides actually. So on one side, there is this people who pose themselves as leaders. I mean, it manifests not necessarily when speak about leader is this politician that is saying, okay, let's do this. But it's also leadership in so many forms. It manifests in a daily life, in terms of the standard of happiness, in terms of even fashion, in terms of some sort of aspirations and some sort of what is popular in society to be in a certain way. All those things is a certain level of leadership that manifests. Okay, you have to go this direction, smoking, or drinking, or having something that is kind of attractive to people. As we saw this another day, was it yesterday that Mahatma Prabhu spoke about this, like such an extreme emphasis on just like an individualism, to the degree that although it looks like you're becoming very unique by following that path of individualism, but actually you might be wearing something that another 10,000 people are wearing because it has been produced in a factory. So although you like to be unique, the mindset that people are following is not unique at all. Actually, if you want to be unique, you can go to the spiritual path, or path of Krishna consciousness. That is very, very unique. That is like against almost the grain of material existence. People who just follow this blind leading the blind. It doesn't have that final destination. It doesn't fulfill that. So therefore, it is also a responsibility on the follower as well, that we actually somehow or another, that we want something cheap and want something quick, in terms of quick fix as well in this material, especially in Kali Yuga, we want something like quick gratification, and therefore you accept the boat, and accept the captain, and accept the leader that is promising some quick. You don't have so much patience necessarily to get to that destination. So we can enter a stone boat, which then we manifest as like 1 in 3 people in UK. And actually, yesterday, from statistic again, I was looking into something, and almost 1 in 3 people, if it is like 28%, experience some mental health issue throughout their life. So how it's possible if you're in the right boat, if you're in the right destination, right leadership, and if you selected the right goal of life, and you selected the right means to achieve it, it is possible that it produces such a result. So it shows that the society is in a wrong boat, is not leading and fulfilling their promise. Of course, when your ship is starting to sink, what to do? Some people sink with the ship, but a more enthusiastic or fortunate or intelligent people, they are trying to swim and trying to find a right boat. And of course, you can actually even lose a hope. Is there a right boat? Are there all boats are sinking, or are there any boats that are seaworthy that actually can take me to the destination that my heart is hankering for? And actually, interestingly enough, that there is a destination that we all hankering for, whether we're animal, whether an insect, whether you're a materialist, yogi, or meditator, transcendentalist, whoever you may be, we all have something in common. Interestingly enough, which is Ananda Manyogi Sat. we are looking for happiness, and we are looking for ultimate expression of happiness is we're looking for love. So this is what we all have in common, and but then there are different promises how to fulfill that aspiration. So therefore, we have to find a boat that will take us there to fulfill that aspiration, which we all agree on, more or less. We all agree that this happens, so you may get then, if you're fortunate, you may decide, okay, I need to get, the material boat is made out of stone, and I can see it sinking, and many people are sinking with it. So let me choose a right boat. Let me choose a boat that will take me to destination. And then again, then you find there are so many boats that in a spiritual life, and those who chose a spiritual journey. And then, there are some quick fix boats, and they seem to take you up to a certain place, but not necessarily up to destination, up to final destination. And that sometimes sounds a bit contradictory, and it is not so easy to explore. Then you start to exploring the spiritual marketplace. On one side, you seem to be that some people say my boat is the only boat that can take you to destination. All boats are stone boats, and they will sink you. And then on the other side, you will see every single boat will take you to the destination. That's another extreme. So one feels like a very extreme cultish, sectarian, and says this is the only boat, there is no other boats in the world. I'll enter our boat and we will be saved. And all other boats, every single boat in the world are Nazi boats. They're going to sink you. And then you go to some other place and they will tell you, any boat you enter, whether it's a stone boat, whether it's a little wooden plaque on the water, or whether you're just going to swim without a boat, every single boat will lead you to the destination. So actually the truth is neither on one side, neither on another. But actually certain boats can take you to the certain destination. And the destination will not be the highest destination. Even when we speak about the destination, achieving perfection, there are different levels of perfection. There is what is described perfect. There is also what is described more perfect. And there is what is described most perfect. So there are different boats that can take you to the perfect destination. There's a seawater boat, it is wooden, it has a captain, but it may not take you to the more perfect or the most perfect, but it can take you to perfect destination. And so sometimes people struggle, when they come, for example, to any tradition, especially in the modern day. People are so fed up with this, my way is the only way. Really frustrated, when they hear about this, you come to us, our way is the only way, and there is no other way. It's very it can be even disturbing and depressing. People just reject it when they can't be like this, that this is the only way, and everything else is wrong. So they either reject it altogether, any boat, or maybe they just, any boat will take me there. But actually, the boat can take you. And what is that boat? It's actually a transcendental knowledge, according to your understanding and knowledge and realization that you receive from the captain, that will set you and inspire you for a certain destination. So, if you go to the travel agency, they will give you. You will not be aware of some destinations. Actually, I haven't been so much to travel agency. recently, although I actually visited some businesses as a travel agency, you will find it's like a magazine with a specific destination. And they can explain to you, okay, if this is your destination, this is what you need to do, you catch this plane, you book this hotel, and you will be there. So according to the understanding of the destination and the means to get there, you can get there. So we have so many traditions in the world that can take you to a perfect destination. So if you are like a very, very, good in a tradition, you have some understanding about Kingdom of God, generally your destination, can be Vaikuntha, is a place of no anxiety, or a minimum of course, it can be heavenly planets, if you're a very, very good person. But if you develop love of God, as Prabhupada so many times is that if you can develop love of God in whichever tradition you are, that's the perfection, that's the goal. But we have to understand that there are different kinds of love of God. There's a perfect love of God. There's a more perfect love, and there is the most perfect love of God. So speaking about perfect love of God, the destination is Vaikuntha, the place of no anxiety, where the Lord is worshipped as the supreme master, and where the relationship is between master and servant. There are so many traditions in the world where there is this almost majority of religious traditions who speak about the relationship between God as a servant and master, or can be a little bit more personal as supreme father and son or daughter. So those conceptions are there, and those conceptions understanding leads you to the destination where you can express that relationship. So the boat to sea water, it is, and the captain, whoever is the saint and the prophet, within the tradition can describe it that destination, and they provide a certain practices that take you to that destination. And it can be on the planet if it's like if the practice is quite mundane, but if or social, but if the practice is pure and it's in all traditions, you'll find there's extremely saintly people who actually manifested the symptoms of love of God. But if that relationship is as a master and servant or something similar to that, then the general destination is Vaikuntha. What we are given in Krishna consciousness, our destination is to know Krishna in his most intimate personal form, most attractive form, in Goloka Vrindavan. So it's the same personality. Lord Narayan is the same person, but is an expansion of Krishna, and it's only a certain relationship that is available within that relationship of master, but and the servant. But in the Goloka, what we're given access is this most intimate relationship with Krishna, which is even there is also master and servant within Goloka, but it's got a lot of different flavor. It's a lot more personal and intimate. And then we have friends, relationship with Krishna as friends, or a parental relationship, or conjugal relationship with Krishna is there. So these are considered the most perfect destination that is there. So this boat, according to the instructions of spiritual master, and the means are given how to cross the ocean. So therefore, when we read this statement of Prabhupada, that Krishna consciousness movement, there is obviously different Krishna conscious movements. ISKCON is not the only one, but of course you have to also find one that will take you to that final destination of Goloka, and that requires a pure teachings and pure representative of those teachings. And Prabhupada very much emphasized as well that if the teachings are not genuine, or even they can be still Krishna conscious, but if things are changed in some shape or form, it will not lead you to the final destination. So therefore, we need to find a right boat and right captain to take us there. And Prabhupada has demonstrated, that this, 100%. 100% with the teaching that he gave us will take us, help us to transform our bodily material identity and reach Goloka Vrindavan. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Has been demonstrated by those who follow Srila Prabhupada teachings and how people experience Krishna. And it is amazing because before we get this, and it is considered Bhakti Lata Puja. The wisdom that we receive from the spiritual teachings is like a seed. And based on that seed and perception, then we start getting realizations and we start to experience to some extent the destination. Before we get that knowledge, before we get the conception, we may have another conception, we will experience absolute reality in not necessarily in its most perfect form. We may experience that absolute reality maybe just in perfect form, or maybe in an impersonal form, which is also a destination, but not a final destination, because as we know, eventually the soul's desire for a future brings the soul back to this material existence. But receiving the right knowledge, then we start experiencing the ultimate reality, at least the glimpses of it, by applying in our life. We will experience at least the glimpses of Goloka Vrindavan. We start experiences glimpses of Krishna, and we start to see, we not necessarily immediately will be able to see Krishna's face, but we will see Krishna's hand in our life acting. So therefore, with my full conviction and assurance, I would like to say that as long as we apply properly those teachings, it will take us to the final destination with absolutely no doubt. Absolutely no doubt. It will take us to the Krishna's lotus feet and our Goloka Vrindavan, in our eternal constitutional position that we regain with no doubt going to receive this constitutional position in due course of time, and our eternal relationship with Krishna. So it is a right boat. It is not, as it is, not the only boat. Krishna is not the only Vaishnava organization in the world. But seeker you shall find, so when you find the right boat, why not enter it and it will take you there? Because as a spiritual seeker, we're searching and looking, and there is this stage. And then we're exploring and asking many questions and etc. But eventually, when you become convinced, you can enter that boat and then reach that final destination that our heart is hankering for, and we all deserve. And that's why the sacred people, King Krishna himself, come to take us to that destination of pure love of Krishna. So, are there any questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Use their imagination. Thank you very much for the nice class. I'm wondering if you could elaborate on this path of destruction, because in one sense, some people who are living material lives, you can see that it's actively destructive because there's so many things in this world which are very detrimental. But then, for somebody that's maybe leading a more sattvic life, a more of goodness, then how can we understand this as a path of destruction?
That's a good question. Thank you. So that path, can be attractive, and some people they find a way, although not so many in Kali Yuga, to choose the sattvic way.
because you can see the people who may be very materially successful, but their madness is free from suffering. But some people choose this kind of simple way of life and quite attached and simple, and they seem to be quite happy. Most of the people who actually get burned in this kind of yoga, they choose maybe that kind of path, and they start doing some yoga and meditation. They seem to be quite satisfied and simple and happy, etc. But the challenge is that eventually you have to leave this behind, no matter how nice everything is, and all of goodness and etc. You have to leave behind, or you maybe go to some really good person, you go to heavenly destination, but you have to leave behind the end of this body. So that's the challenge, I want, because the understanding of sustainability and something that should be really lasting, it's there in human beings, like this whole climate change movement, for example. People are very much looking for something that is going to last for generation after generation after generation. And so that applies, that natural call of the soul for everlasting thing that never changes is there, and but it's also kind of the only thing that will never end is our love for Krishna. That is the best boat to choose is the everlasting love for Krishna, because that boat will never disappoint us. So I don't know if that answers your question. That's something that is sustainable, that is going to last, because it's our eternal nature. It doesn't end with the end of life.
Thank you. I wonder if you could also, in context of the past time that we're reading about, just refresh my memory on what this path of destruction is that's being spoken about right now.
So you're basically reading about how Indra has offended Brihaspati, and the explanation is now given of what becomes a chain reaction of that offense, leading from one thing to another. So this is Indra's actually own realizations after he realizes that he offended a single person. He's kind of contemplating on the journey that is kind of waiting for him, and what happens when you do that. So here it's saying, Indra, the king of heaven, could immediately understand his mistake, realizing he had disrespected his spiritual master. He condemned himself in the presence of all the members of the assembly. Alas, what a regrettable deed committed! Because of my lack of intelligence and my pride in my material opulences, I failed to show respect to my spiritual master when he entered this assembly, and thus I had insulted him. Although I am king of the demigods, or situated in a mode of goodness, I was proud of a little opulence and polluted by false evil. Under the circumstances, who in this world would accept such riches at the risk of falling down? Alas, I condemn my wealth and opulence. If a person says one who is situated on the exalted throne of a king should not stand up to show respect to another king or a brahmana, it is to be understood that he does not know the superior religious principles. Leaders who have, so this is today's verse, leaders who have fallen into ignorance and who mislead people by directing them on the path of destruction, as described in the previous verse, are in effect boarding a stone boat, and so too are those who blindly follow them. A stone boat would be unable to float and would sink in the water with its passengers. Similarly, those who mislead people go to hell, and their followers go with them. So it's just expanding on the principle that, some people say that if you're very elevated, if you're sitting in an exalted position, then you don't have to anymore, bow down and respect anyone. This is kind of material consciousness. People want to get to the top, so that I don't have to go down or respect anyone because everybody should worship me. It's kind of that competition with Krishna mentality that is basically false ego is leading us to, and it's just expanding on this verse that this is not leading anywhere, that this is a stone board. Something like this bad example. So our greatest leader you can see in Krishna consciousness, and it's like when you start hearing about it, it's like it's the most difficult to accommodate in the mind. You know how this greatest leader is a completely surrendered to the feet of Krishna, because we have this idea of the leader who is just like doesn't bow down to anyone, is the kind of almost looking like a god. But actually, you see the leader in Krishna consciousness is completely surrendered to the lotus feet of Krishna and understands this is the empowerment that is coming from. As you can see, Indra has rejected that and failed. He forgot that he is actually a servant of a spiritual master, and his power is coming from that dimension that he's been placed in this situation because of some mercy that he has received. And even a mundane person who doesn't believe in God is that a position because they did some piety. They must have done some charity work or whatever, that they somehow or another end up in this leadership position. They don't realize that, and they don't give credit to others, and become like a puffed up. And you can see, even if there is a saying in English, saying that pride comes before the fall. So you can see, there's even material politics. You see many shooting stars, the people just come, make a mess, and disappear in oblivion, and nobody remembers them. And the people who do lasting to some extent, either they run some karma and they do many atrocious activities despite the fact that they remain a leader for a while. But then at some point they go down at the end of their life. At the latest, the latest will just go completely down at the time of death. Or it happens, some envious another leader comes and kills them. Just like in Scottish history, it's just like one leader killing another. It's like a slaughterhouse. Most of the European history, it's a slaughterhouse. One established another one. So they are kind of stonewalled and doesn't last for so long. So Bhagavatam answers the question. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srila Bhagavatam Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande.
His Grace Raghunath ki.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki.